Hey everyone, Garfum here, and today we're going to be talking about the 4-man meta for patch 2.4 and season 5. Now, one note before we get into things here, the meta is always changing depending on new builds that people find throughout the season, so these are just my theory crafts and predictions for the early season based on the last patch of the PTR before it goes live next week. So all of this is subject to change if they change anything before it goes live and when people discover new builds. Now, that being said, here's a tier list that is based on how likely I think a class will be in the 4-man meta. So, starting from the top, the class that I think is most likely to be in the 4-man meta and is almost guaranteed a spot would be the Barbarian. Next on the tier list, we have Witch Doctor, Demon Hunter, and Wizard, which I think are all equally likely of being in the 4-man meta. And next, near the bottom of the list, we have Crusaders. And finally, at the very bottom of the list, and the class I think is least likely to be in the 4-man meta, is going to be Monks. So, now let's talk about why each class earned the tier that they got put into. Starting off with the Barbarian, why do I think they're pretty much guaranteed a spot next season? Because they're extremely strong supports that pretty much bring a little bit of everything to the group. They provide insane damage reduction with Ignore Pain mob rule, combined with Pride of Cassius to pretty much keep Ignore Pain up 100% of the time. They also take Ancient Spear with either Harpoon or Rage Flip to group up mobs. Additionally, they take Selenium to spawn health globes to provide healing. And lastly, they can also take Shilenix Chain. It's a belt that increases your entire party's movement speed after using a war cry. Those are the main reasons why Barbarians are going to pretty much be needed in every group, and I have a hard time seeing anything that could sort of outclass all that utility and supporting that the Barbarian can provide. Now, moving on to the mid-tier classes, starting with Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter next season is going to hands down provide the highest single target DPS in the game with the new Shadow set that increases Impale's damage by 40,000% to the first enemy hit, which allows them to very quickly and easily take out Elite Packs and Rift Guardians. The downside to this set, of course, is that it's really bad at clearing out high density and doing AoE damage, so there are some drawbacks, and that's why it's placed in the mid-tier, because I could very easily see high AoE builds being better, but the Demon Hunter can also provide AoE builds if that becomes the meta. And moving on to Witch Doctors. Witch Doctors can basically bring two different builds to the group. They can either bring a build that's solely focused on supporting, or they can bring a build that does a lot of damage and also provides some group buffs. Both setups will be taking advantage of Star Metal Kukri to keep Big Bad Voodoo off cooldown as much as possible, providing huge buffs to the group. Now, the supporting setup is going to be focusing on further increasing the group's damage by taking things such as the Helltooth 2-piece set, which after hitting enemies with certain abilities is going to increase their damage taken by 20% from all sources. This includes damage dealt by your party members. They'll also be taking Mass Confusion Paranoia, where the enemies affected by Mass Confusion take another 20% additional damage. They're going to be pairing this with Last Breath, which reduces the cooldown on Mass Confusion by up to 20 seconds to help keep that debuff on the monsters as much as possible. And on the other hand, we have the damage setup for Witch Doctors, which takes the Legacy of Nightmares ring set, and this can be combined with a lot of different items and skills to make a bunch of different builds for straight up DPS Witch Doctor. But one of the popular builds is the Carnival build, which takes the Carnival Mask and the Dagger of Darts and focuses on buffing the poison dart damage as much as possible. So you have your Fetish Army shoot poison darts that pierce for crazy amounts of damage. Now, I see both setups having potential for group play, but not required for group play, which is why they were also placed in the mid-tier. So, moving on to Wizards. Wizards next season are going to be useful because of their high damage AoE skills, most notably Energy Twister and Explosive Blast. When paired with the Delcir 6-piece set, increases their damage by 2,000%. And this can also be paired with the Twisted Sword, which further increases Energy Twister's damage, and the Orb of Infinite Depth, which stacks damage and damage reduction upon using Explosive Blast. So with the Twisted Sword increasing your Energy Twister's damage with each Energy Twister you have out, combined with Delsier's 6-piece, you'll place down your slow time, increasing your Energy Twister's damage, and then you'll spam Energy Twisters all over the screen, so for each one you have out, you'll deal more damage, so you want as many of them as in the screen as possible, and then you'll have the screen flooded with high damage Energy Twisters, dealing huge AoE all over the place. So Wizards will provide arguably the highest AoE damage next season. However, Witch Doctors and Demon Hunters can also provide some pretty good AoE damage, and they're nearly on par with Wizards, but Wizards are arguably a little bit better, which is why I place them in the mid tier, because again, they're not required since other classes can provide nearly if not the same amount of AoE damage as them. Now moving a tier lower onto the Crusader. So why is the Crusader considered low tier in my opinion? It's because he can't dish out as much damage as the classes above him, and he can't provide as much supporting power as the classes above him. However, with the Roland set, the Crusader can still provide some damage and support at the same time. To do this, you would take the full 6-piece Roland set, and the 2-piece bonus is what's going to help you support by reducing the cooldowns on your laws and defensive skills, and the 4 and 6-piece bonuses is what's going to help you deal damage, since those bonuses increase your damage and attack speed when using Shield Bash or Sweep Attack. Another key item for this setup would be Golden Flints to restore Wrath per enemy hit with Sweep Attack, and then you'll take defensive skills like Consecrate to give your party life per second, and you'll also want to take Laws of Valor Critical to increase your party's critical hit damage by 100%. So you'll be spamming Sweep Attack to deal damage and at the same time lowering your cooldowns on Consecrate and Laws of Valor, so you can keep those up as much as possible. But like I said at the beginning, it can't deal as much damage as Wizards, Demon Hunters, or Witch Doctors, and the support it provides isn't as strong as the support a Barbarian or a Witch Doctor can offer, which is why Crusaders are in the low tier. Finally, moving on to the bottom tier, Monk. So why is Monk bottom tier this season? Well, similar to the Crusader, they just can't deal as much damage as the other classes, and they can't provide enough supporting power as the other classes. And you might be wondering, well, last season monks were super strong and super popular, what happened to them? Well, last season the 2 strongest monk builds we saw were Static Charge and Heal Monk, and those both got nerfed into the ground. Static Charge, its damage got nerfed, and the fact that it got procced off of your other party members hitting it was also removed. Heal Monk, all their life per second skills that provided that huge life per second buff to your group where your group took damage, they'd instantly heal back to full health. All those skills that provided life per second were nerfed by about 70%. So you can still try to do Heal Monk, but it's going to be a lot worse than it was last season. So as it stands for monks, they're just a bit below in damage and in supporting power of the other classes, but they're still pretty close, so if someone figures out a pretty optimized build for monks, I could definitely see them being a part of the 4-man meta, but as it stands, they're just still a little bit lacking for that group play, which is why I would place them in the bottom tier for 4-mans. So now that we've talked about what each class can provide to a 4-man composition, what do I think the actual group is going to be made of? Well, I see a lot of combinations for a 4-man group working out. However, there's one 4-man setup that I think kind of sticks out to me that could potentially be the best, and that is Support Barb, Single Target Demon Hunter, AoE Wizard, and a hybrid Witch Doctor that can bring damage and some supporting power. But there's a lot of other combinations that I think could work out, such as Support Barb, AoE Wizard, DPS Witch Doctor, Support Witch Doctor, or Support Barb, Hybrid Crusader, AoE Wizard, Single Target Demon Hunter, or Support Barb, Support Witch Doctor, AoE Demon Hunter, AoE Wizard, and the list kind of goes on. There's like so many different combinations you could do with each that it's kind of hard to pick one, but you can kind of tell that support barb is definitely going to be in that 4-man meta. So that's really the best information I can give you on the 4-man meta at the moment, since, as I said, it's always changing, and I definitely don't think it's been found yet, since the season hasn't even started. It's only been PTR testing, and things are always changing, so maybe later in the season we'll see the best setup emerge, or maybe there'll just be a couple different setups that are always competing the entire season with each other. We'll just have to find out. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for today. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think will be the best 4-man meta, or what you're going to test out for a 4-man meta. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a like, and make sure to subscribe for more Diablo videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck next season, and have an awesome day.